Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve will be bringing up a subject, speak about it for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I'll respond. And he may interject or comment about my responses. So, over to Steve.
Hi, people. So, when we think of India, the country of India, we think of one of the wonders of the world, the Taj Mahal, and we think about the culture and the food that they make, spices, and there's almost a billion Indian. The population is almost a billion people. Now, the sanitation system isn't all that much up to scratch, if you pardon the expression. And so, especially in the countryside, the Indians tend to do what bears do in the woods. So they tend to dig a little hole and do a poop, and then if you're lucky, they fill it in. If not, they just leave it open for nobody to step on. So it's just, And in 2019, the Indian government, they made a project, I think it was with Bill Gates, to supply toilets. And they made 100 million toilets for the countryside and the outskirts of big cities where they were failing to keep up with demand, let's say like that. And so India decided they did this, but however, old habits die hard. And when you're in a culture that is so ancient as India, and only all of a sudden in 2019 they decide to offer you a piece of porcelain for you to sit on. I did say sit there.
Yes, yes.
The Indian people population, they didn't really take to it all that well. I've seen an image. This comes out of RT, by the way, rt.com, Russia Today.
Yeah.
And I've seen a model of a public lavatory in one of these places, and it's one cubicle and one low-walled area for the micatory, for the place you can have a slash.
Yes.
So you can imagine that somebody's going to occupy that stall, and the person who is waiting outside, they're going to think, well, my culture tells me to do it around the corner anyway. So I'll look for a bit of soft soil, and that's where it's going to be, And I imagine that like I said, in the outskirts of the cities, it's very much the same story.
Yeah.
So we've heard about the Oh Calcutta and how bad it was, and Delhi belly. Now we know where Delhi comes from.
Yes.
You think about the street traders making finger foods after they've found a bit of soft ground.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So that's the situation where India finds itself. It's got 100 million lavatories that are being subutilized because the Indian population think either it's because it is healthier or they think that it's quicker. It certainly is quicker. You don't have to open and close a door.
Mm.
You know, but
Yes.
that's where we are. That's where we are. You know, what
Right.
you're going to do, over to you.
Right. Okay. Well, when I was a Boy Scout or in the Scouts, we went camping, and we basically had a field one day for a few. And yes, it was a case of a loo, bucket basically, and you dug a hole, and you filled this up for the week, and if you're there for the second week, dug another hole and all that, and then you put a cross in the ground so that nobody would come and dig a hole behind you for the next person. Yeah, I don't think that'd be allowed now. This is going back to the 80s. I'm not so sure. I mean, yeah, my experience of health and safety in the work and everything else, yes, where, yeah, yeah, the using a bit of soft ground and everything else. Yeah, I mean, possibly it happens in the countryside a bit in Brazil as well, for all we know.
Oh, for sure. It happens in the UK. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
because I was one of the perpetrators, but that's another story.
Well, yeah, yeah. Actually, Manchester City on a Saturday, Friday, and Saturday night can get quite grim in places. Um, yeah, disinfectant crews go around on a Monday morning, and yeah, okay, so Sunday morning probably even. Yeah, I mean yeah, I'm afraid nature calls. Yeah, I mean it's quite interesting in the UK. They started to on a Friday or Saturday night put in these places for men to be able to do the business. Well, do one business, not another one, so to speak. Um, yeah, I mean this has always been a problem. Um, Again, maybe if you've even got a designated area, it's it's a problem, but it's not bad. I mean, the problem is, yeah, how do you upgrade a country um, that was being developed at one point in its history? Let's be honest about it. And I'm not yeah, I'm somebody that doesn't apologize totally for the empire, but I don't totally agree with everything to do with the empire. The British went there, depending on where you look at it. Did we go there to conquer, or did we go there to civilize? That's yeah, we that's a debate for another day. It is a again sanitation globally around the world is an issue, um, not necessarily just in India, other regions as well. It's a good example. Whatever Bill Gates may not be, yes, I think his heart's in the right place somewhere. Um, Again, there's there's only so much you can do. Again, yeah, you okay, you can introduce one toilet in a thing, people like it or use it, think it's a good idea, maybe it will somehow grow. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all know we've had to use toilets for other uses, like the calling for God, yeah, as well. After after overindulgence and some nights,
I've never done that.
no, oh,
No, much.
yeah, there's times I haven't quite made it as well, but that's another story as well. Yeah, you learn.
Spent
You think you learn after the first time, but yeah, not always. Um, yeah, I mean, I really don't know really what to say about this. Only that yes, it is maybe that is the mark of a civilization. A full civilization has more toilets than it needs. A lesser civilization doesn't have enough. Um, Even in Sweden, which we consider a very civilized society, they do tend to still do it in urinate and do business in parks and everything else at a night time as well. That's Sweden. So before we start looking at other countries, we do have to look at ourselves as well, where we are as a society, where we have the facilities, but as you said, people can't be bothered to queue up. And yeah, I mean, I've had women follow me into men's toilets because the queue was less and walk straight into a thing. Yeah. Um, yes, I mean, yeah, I did know the girl concerned, and the guys were having a go at me for allowing it to happen. Oh, hang on, the girl, I didn't invite the girl in here; she followed me. Um, you know what I'm saying? Yes. Yeah, and yes, I have known toilets used for other purposes as well. Yeah,
No, I suppose at the end of the day,
yeah,
we need to, like you said, we need to respect the culture
yeah,
of a foreign land.
mm,
We may not agree to it, we may not understand it. However, that is how it is. I remember uh, as a young man, I went to France,
yeah.
and in France,
So you didn't
they
visit a civilized place then, you know?
sorry,
I said you didn't go to a civilized country even then.
no, well, I'll explain to you.
Yeah,
Uh, I went to France,
yeah,
and there was a public lavatory there in France where the
yeah,
urinal.
yeah.
You went through the door of the urinal, but you could see the urinal from the
Mm,
street.
mm,
And I said to my mate who I was visiting, I said, "Wow!" I said, you can see into the toilet,
mm,
and you can see the urinals."
mm,
And he says, "Yes, but nobody's got a see-through backside."
mm,
You know, so for the French, it's normal.
mm.
And also they have those toilets, the not the sit down toilets, but the
Yeah,
crouch down toilets.
yeah,
I think or the Turkish
yeah, yeah.
toilets.
No, the squats. Yeah, yeah,
Um, which also surprised my naive young
yeah.
mind when I was there. You know, I hey, I remember a French girl being presented to me,
Mm,
and she Parisian, she kissed both cheeks as they do,
yeah, yeah. Sorry, yeah,
and I thought, hello,
yeah,
thought, hello.
yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
not
know.
I'm not that good looking, surely.
Well, it wasn't
Well,
last week, admittedly. Yeah, yeah, but yeah,
there, no, and so it's these things that we need to. I learned
yeah.
from an early age that we need to respect the customs
Well, sense,
and
yeah.
the behaviors of foreign lands.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, it is. We're not always going to, as I say, we yeah mentioned the previous podcast today. You know that we learn that we in Brazil there are things in Brazil that we it's not we don't understand. We respect, and in Brazil, yes, the Brazilians are very tactile and they will encroach upon your space, which
Yes, they
even
do.
when you've lived. I mean, I've been my wife when I was in the UK, even moving here, the first party you go to, you're sort of almost backing up against the wall. And, the Brazilians, man or female, sort of coming closer and closer. And think, where am I going to go now? I can't climb
Yes,
onto the ceiling. Yes, it can be a culture shock. You get used to it. And
yes.
um, yeah, there is the thing, the Americans will suffer half a meter, half a yard. The British like 2 meters. So when the COVID restrictions for us British were absolutely paradise. We're living in a world that we quite understood. Um, yeah, and I mean again, basic sanitation is. I mean the Japanese are very big on sanitation and things. I understand. I've not been to Japan. I don't know if you have, but I understand it's very clean. They take doing the business there very seriously. Um, I don't know about the Germans. Apparently they're in the process of reevaluating how they do their business and coming up with new and wonderful ways to do things.
Well,
Yeah,
I think in the Indian case,
mm,
just to wind this up,
yeah,
uh, in the Indian case, I think that whoever made the project of the 100 million
mm.
toilets got it slightly wrong, because
Well,
I think the Indians needed to be potty trained first, and then then advance
I
onto a full
consider it.
toilet.
Yeah. We're making a point here. We're not suggesting that the Indian, every Indian is, but anyway, uneducated or anything else.
Am I
Um,
ignorant? Am I ignorant? Of course I
yeah,
am.
of course, yeah. I mean, it's yes, it's funny in the world today that you have to begin to think how other people will think and misjudge a comment or a situation. Yeah. Anyway, I think with that, I think we might both need to go and spend the penny ourselves in a minute. Or there used to be a game called Blockbuster on British television. Yeah, Bob Calgary was in there. Bob,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
I'll have a pee, please, Bob. Anyway, time to wrap this up. And thank you, Steve, for today and your contribution. And we will see you all again next week. Okay.